Welcome back to another episode. I am your host, Matt Powers of the Power Sports Memorabilia Show. Thank you again for joining me. It's been a few minutes since we've done one of these. It's the new year now, and Christmas is past us, so let's get back to putting these episodes together for you guys. If you guys get a chance, please visit the website, powersportsmemorabilia.com. You can also follow me over there on Instagram, or IG, I guess as the kids call it, over there at Powers Autographs. So, something caught my eye about 2 or 3 weeks ago. I saw a jersey that was a limited edition jersey, and it got me thinking that I have already sold about 15 to 20 of those jerseys already. The same exact jersey, and this one was marked as a limited edition. Nothing different. And so it got me thinking, it would be a good idea to do a episode on limited edition pieces and which ones to kind of stay away from, which ones are good ones to add to your collection. Because there's a lot of people that'll add a limited edition to something to quote-unquote increase its value, but there's nothing really different than that from something else that somebody else is signing. So we'll get into all that here in just a second here. But first off, let's start off with, what is a limited edition? I know that's a simple question, but let's just make sure we set some parameters for this. So a limited edition is exactly what it says. If it's a limited edition of 10, only 10 of these are going to be made forever and ever and ever and ever, okay? There's no chance of making more of these. There's not going to be less of these. There's only going to be 10 of this particular autograph piece that you are getting. Okay, that's what I say when I say limited edition. And that's what I think as a collector you should feel like that's what you're buying into, is that, well, if I buy number 8 of 10 here, there's no chance that another one of these is going to be made, okay? So what types of limited edition items are good to get for your collection? Well, let's talk about a couple different things here. One is stuff around championships. So, for example, when the Philadelphia Eagles won their recent Super Bowl, there was a decent amount of team-signed items that came out, photos, helmets, I believe there's some jerseys too. And stuff like that is really good limited edition stuff to get done because it's all done right after the Super Bowl there. And it's extremely hard to get all those guys back in to do an autograph signing, okay? So getting them on a team-signed item, this is where you're going to get probably the most amount of guys that you're going to get. And it's going to be, a limited edition on maybe a particular photo or a particular type of jersey. But again, it's going to be really hard to get all those guys on a championship item. So something around championships is always a good item to get. Those ones definitely increase in value. I was actually just looking around for some of those Eagles team signed items. I was curious what the price was on them. And they are tough to find. I don't see any of those helmets around anymore. I did see a couple photos there, but man, those are definitely something that I should have probably got more of on those. Another thing that can be good for your limited editions is if it's on a type of photo or a canvas that simply just cannot be reproduced. So, for example, a vendor has a particular license right to a certain image, and they own the rights to this. There's no chance of it being reproduced. That's another safe bet for a limited edition piece. Or also, if you're getting a limited edition from an athlete who has an exclusive memorabilia provider. For example, if you got a limited edition Michael Jordan piece from Upper Deck, good chance that that's never going to be replicated again. I don't see Jordan doing a whole bunch of crazy other signings. We've talked about this before on the show. So that's going to be something that's going to be very, very hard to replicate. What are some items that you want to avoid for limited edition pieces? Well, you want to avoid something that can be easily reproduced by yourself. And what I mean by that is, if you see like a single signed baseball, let's say by Mike Trout, and it's got, 4 or 5 inscriptions on it, and it's a limited edition of 27, say, for example, there's nothing really stopping you from getting that same baseball with those same inscriptions, at the next signing, okay? Unless of course, the agent says, no, we're not doing that anymore, then you're kind of stuck. But let's say, for example, it's not Mike Trout. Let's say it's Jerry Rice, right? And you've got a jersey or something like that that's a limited edition of 80 or whatever it is. It's got a bunch of inscriptions on there. there's nothing that's stopping you from going to Jerry Rice's next signing and getting that exact same piece done. So it kind of defeats the purpose of, the limited edition on that item. So something that you want to avoid is something that, hey, is there an opportunity for me to possibly do this again myself and maybe get it, at a different price or whatnot? But you're just really trying to avoid getting something that you can do yourself, because that's going to basically null and void that whole limited edition there, okay? You also want to kind of avoid items that don't have any inscriptions on there. Take, for example, a jersey. It's just a regular jersey, and they just happen to make a limited edition out of that of, let's say, 10 because it's got a jersey patch on there, okay? Whoop-de-freaking-do. You can add the patch yourself, okay? So that would be something else that you would possibly want to avoid, okay? And, what kind of started off this whole story, or this whole podcast that I wanted to do here was, there's a Tom Brady limited edition of 12 high school jersey out there. And I went to the same high school as Tom Brady. So I've been actually selling this type of jersey for about 7 or 8 years. And I've sold, again, 15 or 20 of these things. And something just came out recently that it's the same exact jersey, no inscriptions on it. It's just the signature, and it's now a limited edition of 12. So, if you're the collector that buys that jersey and you're thinking, wow, there's only 12 of these in the entire world, well, I got news for you. That's actually technically incorrect, because I've actually sold 15 or 20 of these things. So there's possibly up to 30 of these things out there. So just put yourself in the shoes of this collector who's, paid a really good kind of a premium for this item. And, they don't know that, unless they listen to this show, that there's actually more of those out there. So that's really unfortunate, but that's why you want to kind of avoid stuff like that. Think to yourself, could I replicate this at the next signing? And if there's a good chance that you can do that, something that you probably want to avoid. Another item I saw was, this one happened to be dual authenticated. It was with another company in MLB. That was really kind of the only difference. There was a Mike Trout limited edition of 27 helmet, and it had no inscriptions on it. Nothing special about the helmet. Was just your standard Rawlings helmet, and they made it a limited edition of 27. Now, if you're a collector that buys that, there's nothing special about that helmet. So there's no reason to fork over extra money on there just because they write that LE of 27 on there. And, another tidbit is just to let you know about the limited edition handwriting that's on there. Typically, the athlete does not write that. So that's some employee at the company that's writing that limited edition on there. So in most cases, it's not the athlete that wrote that on there. Now, it would change my opinion if the athlete actually wrote that on there, then that's a little bit different there, because the athlete is actually, writing that on there. That changes the complexity of things a little bit. But most of the time, it's the employee of the company that's writing that limited edition on there. So it just doesn't really add any value to it at all. Again, on that Mike Trout helmet, you could just get that at the next signing. Very easily done, no problem. So, and the last thing I'll say too is, with the NFL coming out with all these kind of helmets and the blaze and the white, white matte ones and all this kind of stuff too, that's another thing to think about is, can I possibly get this helmet again? Those blaze helmets obviously were very popular. We're here in Kansas City, so those Kansas City Chiefs blaze ones, those are almost impossible to find, those full-size ones. So if you see something out there that's got a bunch of inscriptions on there, or in some inscriptions, and maybe it's a limited edition or something, yeah, you could probably replicate that with a different helmet, but you're not going to be able to get that exact same helmet. So that's something to consider too, is what is the actual item it is on? Can I get that item again? And, in some cases you might be able to, in some cases you might be able not be able to. So I hope that clarifies some of this, limited edition stuff for you guys. Just be careful when you're out considering something like that, and just ask yourself that question, could I replicate this at the next signing? Is this possible? So, and if you say no, then you know what? That's a good limited edition piece to get. So if you guys get a chance, again, visit the website, powersportsmemorabilia.com. You guys can see some of the limited edition pieces I have on there. And again, give me a follow over there on Instagram at Powers Autographs. See you guys on the next episode.